उमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। To enter into the kingdom of God, one's consciousness should be completely purified. If there is any tinge of material desire, a living entity will be guided by the Supreme Lord who is seated in his heart as Paramatma towards other devatas, so that his so-called attempt for sense gratification will be fulfilled by the blessings of those devatas. He may elevate himself to some higher planets, to the abodes of the devatas, but still he will not be satisfied. His stay or his so-called enjoyment in the higher abodes, they are all temporary. So this activity or this line of thought or this way of working is for the Grihamedis, those who are attached, especially attached householders. They want to perform some pious activities, earn pious results, and through that they want to be engaged in the activities of sense gratification. So this process is known as pravritti dharma. Pravritti means every one of us, we have got this, Prabhupada says, overlordship. Every living entity who has come to this material world has got this tendency or has the sense of overlordship. So this is called pravritti. He wants to lord over the material nature, the resources available in the material world, to lord over other living entities. And for that, he follows some prescription given by the Vedic literatures and he wants to enjoy. So this is pravritti. Opposite of this is nivritti, nivritti dharma. So here is what Kapila Muni says. Nivritti dharma nirata. Here, nivritti dharma nirata means constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. This is what Prabhupada writes in the purport. Constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. So we hear from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna telling, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. Abandon all kinds of dharma, religious activities, and simply surrender unto me. So this is nivritti dharma. The Bhagavatam says, Dharma prochita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So here in the Bhagavatam, all kinds of cheating religion or so-called religion which doesn't help a living entity to awaken his love for Godhead, all such things are kicked out, are thrown away. And also more specifically the Bhagavatam says in the beginning itself, Dharmasya hi apavargyasya nartho arthaya upakalpate. Dharma is meant for emancipation, liberation from material bondage, going back to Godhead. This is what dharma is meant for, and the objective of dharma should not be arthaya upakalpate, for economic development. No. On the other hand, what does the pravritti marga say? Perform dharma, and through dharma gain whatever economic requirements, economic development you can have, and through whatever monetary benefits you have, through that you can acquire objects for sense gratification, and then finally you focus towards moksha. So it's a step-by-step or staircase method, we say. On the other hand, the Nivritti Dharma says, no, give up all this step-by-step method. Directly surrender unto the Lord, render devotional service to the Lord. So-called religious activities of this material world, so-called duties which are based on the temporary designations in this material world, give up all of them and simply surrender to the Lord. Simply engage unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. This is what the Nivritti Dharma, Nivritti Marga, it says. The whole of Krishna consciousness, what we are practicing, is based on this Nivritti Dharma principle. This is codified by Rupa Goswami, wherein he says, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandhe Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Anasaktasya vishayan. A real renunciant, a real yogi or a real devotee, he is not attached. He doesn't have attachment to anything material. Vishaya, material sense objects, he is anasakta. No asakti, no attachment, no inclination towards that. But yatarham upayunja, he possesses them, he deals with them. For what purpose? Nirbandhe Krishna sambandhe. For Krishna sambandha, if some object of this material world can be used for the Lord's service, then he is interested in it. He deals with it. Nirbandhe Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Shri Krishna Balarama ki. So this is what Rupa Goswami says, and this principle is demonstrated as given in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the Brahmana Patnis, the wives of the Brahmanas, whose husbands, they were all into this pravritti marga, performance of big sacrifices, chanting Vedic mantras, following regulative principles, and all of those things. They were completely involved in those things. But their wives, the Brahmana Patnis, they were also involved in helping their husbands execute their religious activities. But when there was an opportunity to serve Krishna directly, they were ready to give up all material designations, material duties, material relationships, everything at once they were ready to give up for the sake of pleasing Krishna and Balaram. They were ready to give up their husbands, their relationship, their father, brothers, everyone. Though all of them tried to stop, they were reluctant. They just escaped from them and went towards Krishna and Balaram, who were hungry to give them some whatever preparations they had made. So this is Nivritti Dharma. And then the example of the gopis. In similar manner, the gopis also gave up everything, all relationships, their minds completely attached towards Krishna, were ready to sacrifice anything for the pleasure of Krishna. So in the recent history also, we have heard the story of one of our previous acharyas, Madhavendra Puri. He says, Sandhya Vandanam Bhavatu Ghosnana Tubhyam Namo. I bid goodbye to whatever performance of Sandhya Vandana, taking bath 2 times, 3 times a day, and all of these rituals. I bid goodbye to you, he says. And Bhodeva Pitarascha Tarpana Vidau Naham Kshama Kshamyata. All my forefathers, whom I am supposed to offer oblations, please forgive me. Now I will not be able to do all of these things. So, why? He says, now that my mind is fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, now I think there is no necessity for all of the other things. Just like there is no time for me to perform all of other rituals and those things and all. My mind is completely fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. So these are all some highest perfectional stages of this Nivritti Dharma. Of course, we sadhakas, we cannot imitate them. These are all examples given in the Bhagavatam and shown by our acharyas. Some highest perfectional stage. So beginners cannot imitate them. So as sadhakas, what are we expected to do? Simply, sincerely, faithfully follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And by that, by his blessings, we will be able to reach these perfectional stages at some point of time, by his blessings. Artificially we can't jump to these things. Of course, what our spiritual master has given is in line, completely in line with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, which teaches us the Nivritti Dharma, not inclined towards the step-by-step process given in the other Vedic literatures, which usually the Grihanidis are interested in. The Karma Kanda portion, performance of all kinds of rituals and to try to get some sense objects for their enjoyment and slowly, gradually elevate higher and higher. No. We reject all of them and simply try to follow this Nivritti Dharma. This is Nivritti Dharma Nirata Nirmama Nirhankritaha Swadharma Aptena Satvena Parishuddhena Chetasa. How? By executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment. There is no sense of proprietorship or false egoism, and one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness, and by thus executing so-called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. So here it is mentioned how so-called material duties. As devotees, we also get up early in the morning, take bath, get fresh, take our whatever regular meals. As devotees, they also get married, lead a family life, take care of children. Externally it may appear, they're also like completely involved in material activities, but their consciousness is purified. They are guided by an expert spiritual master. Though they may appear to be engaged in so-called material activities, still they make advancement towards reaching the Supreme Lord's abode, going back to Godhead. So this is Nivritti Dharma. So this requires a change in consciousness, which has to be guided by an expert spiritual master. Okay, also another point in the purport Srila Prabhupada mentions, engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in the false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master, thinking oneself as God. It is a false egoism, or thinking oneself to be the master. These are all false notions. In the year 1957, it was few years after Indian independence, Srila Prabhupada was trying very hard to somehow push on this Krishna consciousness movement. And especially during those days, the impersonalistic ideology, the Mayavadi ideology was very prominent. All the so-called leaders of the society, big scholars, intellectuals, they were all inclined towards, at least majority of them, towards the impersonalistic philosophy. Somehow Prabhupada was trying to approach the leaders of our country. We have seen, like at least we have read the letters, Prabhupada writing letter to Mahatma Gandhi, writing letter to Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajendra Prasad, the President, Prime Minister, and all of them. But there was no reply. Still Prabhupada did not give up. Prabhupada did not give up his endeavor. He kept on trying. So in the year 1957, Srila Prabhupada from Vrindavan, he had come to Bombay, now Mumbai, earlier it was known as Bombay. He came there and he was trying helping even the Gaudiya month there in Bombay, and helping in engage in all kinds of trying to push on this preaching movement. At that point of time, he attended one conference organized by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. So in that conference, there were all eminent speakers, big scholars, and it included the governor of Uttar Pradesh, K.M. Munshi, at that point of time. He was the founder of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Later, he became the governor of Uttar Pradesh. And then there was the Chief Justice of High Court of Maharashtra. They were all invited. And the topic which they were speaking on was, what is the matter with the world? See, this was the topic given. What is the matter with the world? See, at that point of time, with all great endeavor, effort, just like K.M. Munshi, they were all freedom fighters. They were all completely engaged, dedicated their life for the mission of the country, all of them. And now they have got independence. Almost 10 years have passed after getting free from foreign rule. And still, they are worried. What's happening? What we had expected things are not going the same way. So this was the topic. What is the matter with the world? So there, the president of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and the governor of Uttar Pradesh, he delivered a speech, a long speech. And there, at the end, he mentions a point which Prabhupada noted it. He mentions that, yes, this world is full of problems and ultimately we have to go back to God. That's the final solution. And Prabhupada got this last sentence from his lengthy speech. And then Prabhupada writes a letter to him, to the governor of Uttar Pradesh. See, all the way from Vrindavan, I came to Bombay for this purpose, to associate with your organization, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Yours and my mission are both the same. Even I speak about, yes, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, we have to go back to Godhead. And you also in your speech, you deliver the same thing. This was the conclusion you also gave. So if we can collaborate, so because Prabhupada knew that how every month Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, like from the government, 40,000 rupees were being allocated and they were spending on maintenance of that. They were also with all good intention, doing all kinds of publishing work, lectures, organizing various activities, and they also they had a department for the study of Bhagavad Gita and preaching it. Everything was going on. So Prabhupada wrote a letter to collaborate with them, but there was no reply. So in the end, Prabhupada knew about it, these people will not reply maybe, so at the end he had written, okay, if you feel that you will not be able to make use of my services, then at least in your personal capacity, I have started an organization, League of Devotees, you become a member of that. So all these things, but still there was no reply. Immediately after that, few days later, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of Maharashtra. His name, I forgot his name. So the chief was the Chief Justice of Maharashtra. He also delivered one speech in that same conference. And he had mentioned the solution to all the problems of the world is we should see to it that the wealth should be distributed to all the people equally. Then happiness will be there and all problems will be solved. The wealth, what is there, should be distributed equally. Now there is unequal distribution of wealth, that's the problem. So wealth should be distributed equally, then all problems will be solved. So Prabhupada writes a letter to him also. He says, yes, what you told is correct. So how wealth can be distributed equally? Not just wealth. Wealth, fame, beauty, non-attachment, power. I think you will be getting what Prabhupada is referring to here. What is it? Wealth, fame, knowledge, beauty, renunciation, Aishwaryasya samagrasya. Yeah. He says not only wealth, all of these things can be, whatever, in a nice manner can be distributed, in a nice manner people can possess this. There is a way how to do it. And Prabhupada quotes 2 verses from the Bhagavad Gita. First verse was Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim ruchati. So if we follow this, yes, wealth distribution can happen nicely. And second verse, what Prabhupada quoted was Yad karoshi yadashnashi yad juhosi dadasi yad tapasyasi kaunteya tad kurusha madarpanam. So if we follow Prabhupada there, he did not go on to explain the verses, the meaning of these 2 verses. But he quoted Bhagavad Gita, this chapter, this verse. So this is what Krishna says. If you follow these 2 verses, then what actually you are telling, the distribution of wealth, opulence, everything, yes, it can be distributed in a proper manner. And he gave 2 examples also. One is the example of a tree. Water the root of the tree, then naturally the nourishment is spread throughout the entire tree. You feed the stomach, then naturally energy will be distributed throughout the body. So, see, this is the principle given in the Bhagavad Gita. If at all you want to distribute wealth equally, there is a solution there. So now in this letter I can't explain much. If at all you give me an appointment for discussion, I'll be very eager to discuss with you all of these things and to go about have a practical plan how to implement these also. So very nice letter Prabhupada explains all of these things, but unfortunately there was no reply for this letter also. Again Prabhupada doesn't give up hope. Again, after a few days, again he writes a letter to Mr. Munshi, the governor of Uttar Pradesh. He takes up another point at that point of time. In that second letter to Munshi, he says, Dr. Munshi had criticized like people becoming so much interested, inclined towards going to cinemas, watching movies, Bollywood, the kind of the stories what they create and how people are so much inclined to all of them. So he criticized. So Prabhupada took up that point and wrote another letter to the governor of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Munshi. I'll read out that quote. If I remember rightly, you have been criticizing in the meeting of about the culture of Hollywood cinemas, the Mayavadi philosophy having killed the spiritual variegatedness of the Supreme Being. The people are generally attracted in the variegatedness of material existence. In the Vedanta Sutras, we have direct information of how a spiritual entity is joyful, full of spiritual bliss. The idea of enjoyment is focused through a material, and as such the spiritual focus is reflected in a perverted manner. So the summary of this is how, see, you are criticizing about the movies, people, Hollywood, all of them, the kind of movies what they are making. But what's the use? If you give the Mayavada philosophy telling God is impersonal, no variegatedness, voidism, which is completely unnatural. Every living entity being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, He is Sanchit Ananda, He wants happiness. If you don't show proper direction where His happiness He is supposed to get, how to get it, then naturally they'll be inclined towards mundane movies, watching cinemas and all. And also Prabhupada took up another quote by him in his lecture telling that, see, I came to know that you are also interested in whatever reviving temples and taking care of the maintenance of the pujaris who are taking care of the temples. Yes, see, when I have the same plan, if at all we make our philosophy something void, impersonal and all, this is how it will be. So we have to take up a movement of temple revival. The temples should become a spiritual hub for the dissemination of spiritual knowledge, especially the Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada goes on to say how the pujaris there, they should be trained in Bhagavad Gita, they should know the philosophy, they should know the little of Sanskrit, and whoever comes there, they should preach to them. So this is how Prabhupada says, and quote that very beautifully, he writes it. So simple criticism of cinema houses will not fulfill the purpose. We have to create tangible interest in the temples for spiritual advancement of knowledge. With that purpose in view, it is necessary that the priests and pujaris must be enlightened men, both in theism and Sanskrit language also. They shall be primary teachers of Bhagavad Gita in different temples. So this was what the vision Srila Prabhupada gave to him. Yes, you have also taken up the temple revival movement, but simply going and paying some money to pujaris just to maintain the temple won't work. We have to educate those pujaris there. They should become the preachers of the message of Bhagavad Gita, and then, yes, whatever some practical change can happen. See, this confusion we should also be completely aware of. One extreme is what we call armchair philosophy, speaking big philosophy. No, after big meetings, big lectures, philosophy, and come back home and do the same routine karma kanda work. No use. On the other hand, simply stick on to some temple worship, rituals and all without knowing any philosophy behind it, and also won't serve the purpose. So, there should be temples, there should be devotees, there should be pujaris, there should be priests who are well versed in the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, and these temples should become a spiritual hub. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The temples should become spiritual hub for people to come, to practice. Like we have to say the teachings of Bhagavad Gita practically by being engaged in the Lord's service, in deity services, in varieties of ways, and also to understand the philosophy behind it, and gradually elevate themselves to the platform of loving Godhead. So this is how gradually things have to be developed. Otherwise, we have seen in our own country many temples which are all dilapidated and nobody to take care. Just yesterday, I heard one person had come and he was explaining how in Hubli itself, one temple is there, very attractive temple, but they were about to send all the deities to one mata in Mysore because they were not to take care of that. It is there in some residential area, but still they are finding it very difficult to maintain the temple. People are not giving any sufficient donation. And at least to maintain the pujari priest there, some money minimum amount is required, and they are unable to, the trust is unable to settle it. So they thought, let us close this temple, let us send the deities to some other place. Somehow, fortunately, from some other mission, they came and approached and wanted to do some services there. So somehow they are taking care. So this is how it will happen otherwise. So devotees in the temple, they should be conversant with the philosophy. They should, through all of their activities, try to develop love towards the Supreme Lord. Lovingly they should be ready to serve the Supreme Lord and give this knowledge to all the visitors who come to the temple. Then our lives will be successful and make others' lives also successful. With this will conclude. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,